Hello everybody, what's up? You're listening to I Was Just Wondering with me, Tom Salmon, the show that dives into music, film and games and everything else in between. My guest on this week's show is Adrian Cremin, a library desk support worker at the University of Kent, who's taking part in a 36-hour gaming marathon to raise money for Alzheimer's Research UK on the 23rd of March 2019. We jumped into Adrian's grandmother's battle against dementia, what it takes to play video games for 2 days straight, and the state of the video game industry in 2019. So I hope you enjoy our conversation. How did you start raising money for Alzheimer's UK research?
Alzheimer's research is obviously something that's close to me because of the fact that it has affected my family by taking my grandma a few years ago. And when it happened, the whole gaming community that I was part of at the time and still am to a certain degree now was the main way I dealt with the grief and dealt with the loss of my grandma. I spent a lot of time gaming and talking to my friends and just using it as a way of forgetting and using the companionship that I had there as a way of dealing with the whole process of losing my grandma. The reason I started raising money for Alzheimer's research in the way I did was because I just started live streaming when I came up with the idea of doing something to raise money to help them. I'd seen Alzheimer's Research UK doing awareness events in London, which is where I was living at the time. It kind of just clicked while I was actually planning a stream with some friends. I'd walk past while I was on the phone to one of my friends who is a big part of my general stream schedule.
Yeah.
And I kind of saw them and went, ding.
Right.
I know. This is what I'm going to do. I'd already done something similar for cancer research. I've done the one coming up is going to be the fourth gaming marathon I've done.
Oh, really? Okay.
I've done one for cancer research, which was my first ever one. And then I've done 24 hours for Alzheimer's research. So this time, because I've already done 24 hours 3 times,
right,
I kind of felt like I had to step it up a little bit.
So just jumping into the relationship with your grandma, I mean, you were close with her. What was your relationship like with her growing up?
Honestly, my parents split up when I was young. I spent the majority of my childhood in my grandparents' house.
Right.
And between my grandma and my granddad, I got most of my values and my beliefs and my personality, I guess, from having spent so much time with them. My grandma was such a huge influence in that. She was a feeder. She was an extremely formidable woman. Hell hath no fury like my grandma when you upset one of her family, kind of thing. And honestly, she was such an inspirational person to be around just because of the motivation and the drive behind such a tiny woman. Yeah, I was the grandchild. I've got 5 cousins.
Oh, okay.
On my dad's side of the family, and out of all of the grandkids, I was the one who spent the most time here.
Right.
And I was the one who got influenced the most by her and by my granddad as well. So spending all that time with them, she pretty much raised me, in all honesty. So yeah, it was really, really hard for me when we found out she had Alzheimer's. I didn't know what Alzheimer's was. I didn't know what it was going to do, other than the fact that my grandma's sister had already lost the fight with dementia.
Right. Yeah.
So after finding that out, it was a bit difficult, well, very difficult to
I can imagine,
to deal with. But I spent a lot of time with her, like in their home, until the point where she ended up having to be put into a nursing home just because there was so much going on that my granddad couldn't look after her by himself.
In terms of dementia, because I know dementia is sort of like a basket of different diseases that affect the brain, and that can be memory, thinking, problem solving, language and perception. What were the first things you noticed, or hang on a minute, there's something not quite right here?
Generally, my grandma was a very placid woman. She was very calm. She didn't get annoyed. She didn't get angry. And unless someone upset the family.
Right.
Then you'd see a whole other side of her. But generally speaking, especially with the family, she was very calm. She was very controlled, and she always knew what to do. If I had a problem, my grandparents were the people I'd turn to. But every now and then she'd forget something. So it'd be like a simple detail, and it'd be sitting on the tip of her tongue, and she couldn't remember it. And she'd be sitting there for a couple of minutes clicking her fingers, and then she'd get it. And slowly but surely, it went from that to she was forgetting quite important details.
Right.
And at that point, the frustration kicked in. And from what I know of it, that's quite a common thing. You get annoyed at yourself for forgetting details. And then I saw a side of my grandma that I don't really feel like it was her, but it was that anger manifesting. And so, for instance, with me, there was a moment how old was I at the time? Lost her 5 years ago. It was probably about 8 years of progress, I think.
Yeah.
I must have been about, I don't know, 13, 14. I'd said something, I'd made a joke, and my granddad had chuckled, and my grandma had chuckled.
Yeah.
And then her face turned, and she went from smiling to being like just this look of pure rage on her face.
Oh, wow.
And from someone so small, it was almost comical until I realized it was serious. And she picked up a bunch of coasters off the dining room table and started throwing them at me, and I was just sitting there capturing them, and it was shocking. And especially considering the fact that this is the woman who pretty much raised me, and who always was my bastion when things were going wrong. Her and my granddad together were the best team I have ever seen, and to see that change was shocking. And it was really difficult to deal with at the time, but looking back on it, it's more of a shock now.
Right.
Having looked back on it and seeing that change and understanding what was going on, whereas back then I had no clue.
How quickly did they make the diagnosis, and what kind of support was available to you at the time?
The actual diagnosis itself was made, it was over time, but I wasn't really aware of it. I was quite young. I was still at school. I was out of the loop of what was really going on. One day, all I knew is she'd been diagnosed.
Right. Oh, wow.
And this was quite early on, and she was just having some of her forgetful spells. But because of the symptoms and the signs that her sister had, they'd managed to pinpoint it a little bit earlier with her. From what I can remember, the support that my grandparents were getting during the entire process was actually really good. The doctors she had some medication that she was taking anyway. She was a type 2 diabetic, I think, as well, which made things really difficult if she forgot to take I can't remember what it was she had to take.
It's insulin, isn't it, I think?
Insulin, something like that, yeah. She had to have the injections, and she had to do a blood test morning and evening kind of thing. But sometimes she'd forget, and if my granddad wasn't paying attention, which is very rare anyway, it could have been quite dangerous. But as a whole, they were on it. She had tablets that she had to take as well, and he ended up becoming her carer. But around that, my stepmom's a nurse with the NHS.
Oh, okay.
Their next door neighbour, or my grandparents' next door neighbour, was a district nurse. They were had quite a good relationship with the staff at the local doctors. So especially for what was going on, the support that the family had and the amount of information that we were able to get hold of because of the support structure we had was more than I think most people would have got, or at least it was more forthcoming because we had people that were already in the NHS and could go and find out for themselves and bring the information back. I think as a whole, generally speaking, it's not particularly well known anyway, but if you go and look for the information is there. It's just finding it.
And I just wondered, going through your journey, what was the most important thing that you want people to know about Alzheimer's?
It's difficult because there are a couple of things I could say to this. I think the most important thing is to remember at heart they're still the same person. The changes are going to be, in some cases, severe, and they are going to be shocking and potentially quite swift, but they are still the same person at heart, and you've got to remember to try and not treat them like they're a completely different person, because at some points they will act like it. There are ways of supporting people, like when my grandma was going through her forgetful phase, we were just making sure that things were obvious and easy to remember, or easily accessible. So if she needed the additional support, it was readily available right in front of her face.
Yeah.
Don't get angry with them for forgetting, because that will distress them more. If they are forgetting things, just be patient. It's not really something, and this is really difficult to say, it's not really something you can easily do anything about in the grand scheme of things. But being patient and just taking your time and not getting frustrated are the best ways to deal with it.
Right.
Because it can be a very frustrating thing from their point of view, especially because they're going to be getting annoyed with themselves, but it will be frustrating for you as well.
Because I know when they make this diagnosis, that it has a huge impact on them and also a huge impact on the family as well. Was there anybody that supported you alongside this?
The family and friends who are in the NHS. But for the most part, my processing and my dealing with it was through my gaming. It was through talking to my friends, and though they weren't going through the same thing and they didn't necessarily understand, I know one of my friends had a similar situation with their grandparent, and the rest of my friends were just very supportive and very understanding. So while I was dealing with it, I'd be sitting on the Xbox of an evening and I'd be talking to my friends, and I'd just end up breaking in the middle of a conversation.
Right.
And it was difficult, but I was talking to people and I was managing to express how I was feeling about it. Yeah, I had my family who were all going through the exact same thing, so we'd sit down and we'd just talk about it. And we were supporting my granddad at the time, because obviously it was his wife that was going through this, and they've been together since they were mid-20s.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
So how long were they married for?
I think it was 50 odd years.
Wow.
Something like that.
That
Yeah,
is a long time.
they were like childhood sweethearts, and then my granddad went off into the RAF and came out of the RAF and swept her off her feet and married her.
Oh, that's really sweet.
Yeah.
So what
yeah,
did
you could always almost make a movie out of their story. I'm surprised it hasn't happened already, to be honest.
What did your grandparents do when they were working?
Oh God, where do I start? They used to own a local chip shop, which was well known at the time. They were kind of favourites around town. All the local police would have their dues, where they'd order a batch of food from my grandparents' fish and chip shop. They used to own a florist's at one point. My granddad ran a fleet of taxis in Folkestone, and ended up with my grandma doing the administration and all this that kind of stuff. So they were a team for I don't know how many years. My granddad used to work at Citroen. My grandma was looking after my dad and his brother and sister at the time. So she was doing the housewife thing for a bit while my granddad was working, and then they've done all sorts of things.
Yeah, definitely packed in a full life of many different careers in there.
It's insane. They're multiple businesses that they own together, and just they were the best team I know.
With that sort of varied sort of career, because it's all about staying active and mentally alert about how cruel something like dementia and Alzheimer's is when it takes away, a very smart, lively and engaged person. That must be very sort of difficult to deal with.
Really frustrating for her, I think, because she was running the business side of the taxis while my granddad was doing the training and running and organising the drivers. And it went from her doing that to her having to stop doing that, and my granddad taking that over and the business dwindling to the point where he couldn't do it anymore, basically. So
at the time when you were going through this, I mean, how deep were you into the gaming community?
Generally speaking, since I was little, I've always played video games in one way, shape or form, whether it's playing on the N64, Game Boy, GameCube, PlayStation, Xbox. I've played most consoles since the original Game Boy and up. I got my I'd always been given a Game Boy or a GameCube or PlayStation, whatever, for presents by my family, and then when I turned 17 I bought my own Xbox. I haven't got off of the Xbox since I started PC gaming as well, but Xbox has been my main platform. I started playing games like Call of Duty, made friends on that, and then went from that to joining an actual gaming community of about 1,600 people, and then going from that to running my own gaming community with some friends of about 200 or 300 people. That community feeling and those people I've been gaming with for the last 10 odd years, and I've got a core group of friends that there's 9 or 10 of us that we have literally been playing games together for about 9 or 10 years solid, and we transition through games together, and some of us have branched off into other games and then been oh guys, you need to come and play this, and got everyone else into into whichever game it happens to be at the time. But at that point when I was dealing with that, I'd moved to London, so I'd moved away from home for a little bit. And I wasn't seeing family as much, and I wasn't gaming as much as I used to, because I was studying at university at the time, and in a relationship as well. And the girl I was in a relationship with wasn't particularly for me gaming, especially when she was around, and I suffered a little bit from it, to be really honest, because that was my main form of communication with my friends. When my grandma passed away, I dove headfirst back into it and spent the majority of my free time gaming and talking to my friends and just trying to recover.
So what was the first game you started crushing with those solid 10 dudes on the Xbox with you?
That's going to have been Call of Duty. Call of Duty Modern Warfare. That was the first game I played. on the Xbox when I bought it. I went out, I bought the Xbox, and I got that game with it. And we played that solidly for I don't know how long. I can't even tell you how many hours I spent on that game. It's in the couple of hundred.
Right.
So we're talking probably about 60 solid days of game time before the next game came out, and we moved to Modern Warfare 2 and then eventually Modern Warfare 3. Call of Duty was kind of where I started, and then from there we ended up branching out, started on like Battlefield. I played a lot of the Elder Scrolls games, so Oblivion and Skyrim. Skyrim is my all-time favorite game because it's just so pretty. I'm now trying to get to the point where I can play, like we're practicing for competitive play in Rocket League.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I absolutely love that game.
Yeah.
Recently, I discovered I'm half decent at PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. I've won more than my fair share of solo matches playing that, and getting into like Apex Legends and stuff like that. So the more like recent battle royale games. What are we playing at the moment? Destiny 2. Okay. Destiny 2 is the most recent game I've played a lot of. Me and my friends, this is the core group. We're pretty much all on Destiny.
Yeah.
And playing all the new content.
What's your team dynamics, and what role do you play within your team?
It's difficult to say because we've got quite a fluid kind of team dynamic going on. Had the title of the Renegades for as long as I can remember. They are my guys. They are my community, and they always will be. I've always kind of taken point with the community just because that is how it always was with these guys. But generally speaking, we're just a bunch of mates that sit down of an evening, play games, and have a good laugh. When it comes to organising certain things, like if we're doing raids or if we're going to go and do a special event in Destiny or going to go and do something on Rocket League, one of us might take point and take the lead for it. Well, my best mate, Pants, his name's Mark, but his nickname's Pants, and I've known him as Pants since I met him over 10 years ago now. It's Pants with a Z, because bless him, he had to be special like that. He is, especially on Rocket League, which I love playing, he's basically my coach. I know I'm very much of an offensive player. He's more of a defensive player, but we've learnt to play from each other, watching each other doing the opposite of what we used to do. So it's like playing the game with another me. It gets very confusing at times. But if I'm doing stuff wrong or I'm not picking up shots that I probably should be, he's sitting there coaching me through it and talking me through it and getting me motivated to do well in it. Yeah, which is why when we end up trying to go competitive in that game, he is the other person that I will choose and always play that game with, because of that kind of that dynamic we've got. We've got a group of Americans which are part of the community, part of the group. So there's like 4 or 5 English guys and 4 or 5 Americans. Because of the time difference, it kind of makes it difficult sometimes. But generally speaking, me and the rest of the UK guys will end up sitting around till stupid o'clock in the morning playing Destiny, because the Americans didn't get home till like 10 p.m. our time. Right. We get on and we'll play whatever we're playing. It's Destiny, Rocket League, PUBG, anything like that, and we'll just go and have a good laugh and have a good time.
So have you met up with any of your team in real life?
Pants, I've met up with multiple times. He is my best mate in real life as well as online. I met him 10 years ago at an RAF camp when we were both in the Air Cadets, of all things. We met, and on the first day we became best mates, and it's been like that ever since. I haven't met any of the others in real life, especially the Americans, because obviously they're across the pond. Yeah. But I know one of the other guys because I used to be in cadets with him as well. Chris, he's a good friend of mine, and I actually play D&D with him twice a week as well. I've got a couple of guys. One of them lives in Penrith, right up north. One of them lives in Scotland, and one of them lives in like the Midlands somewhere. I always forget whereabouts he's from. I always take the mick and say he's from Liverpool, but he's not. He hates me saying that he's a Scouser, because he's not. I haven't met up with half of them yet. The Americans especially, because they're so far away. But I am planning, hopefully during the summer, to take a road trip and go and see the rest of the guys that are in the UK. And I'll jump in the car with Pants and Chris, and we'll end up just going up to Scotland via all these different places to go and see everyone. We have been planning to do that for a few years, but because of work and like financial commitments from other people, it's just been like, we'll have to postpone this for a little while.
Because there is a certain reference of meeting someone online who's a fantastic online player that you know sort of online, and then meeting them in IRL. From what I've heard from friends, they've met people been playing online with, and then they meet them, they hold this such great sort of position in their life of being this sort of like god of gaming,
I mean, yeah, to a certain extent, it's funny because in certain ways we're all good at certain games. So, like my mate Dan plays video games pretty much for a living at this point. He's always online, he's always gaming, and he loves it. You look at his gamer score compared to anyone else in the community, and he's got like 10 times the amount of gamer score as the rest of us. It's insane. And some games, he is literally a god. Playing among mortals pretty much, and then other games we're sitting there like, come on dude, catch up. So we've all kind of got that one or two games that we're good at. So I kind of imagine it would almost be like that for all of us, because we'd all be meeting people who are like awesome at a specific game.
Well, I guess you already do, but like get more into the sort of nitty gritty, I guess, of meeting out.
Oh, the arguments we have debating certain things like Destiny 2, the lore and the tactics for some of the raids and stuff like that. We can be sitting there for half an hour shouting at each other down the mic, and like, no, I'm right, no, I'm right, no, I'm right. It can be so much fun, and yeah, it's a good laugh. So I'm really looking forward to meeting some of them, because some of them have helped me, like obviously in difficult times. And I just want to be able to get the chance to go and give them a freaking hug if I can. Just be like, thank you for being so awesome.
Just moving on to your 36-hour gaming marathon, how do you prepare for something like that?
Lots of sleep. So that's the main one. Like lots of sleep beforehand, so that I wake up and I'm not actually tired, because I'm going to be working I've got the day off the day before, and I've got 2 days off the day after, because I'm going to need like a solid day's sleep afterwards. Making sure that I'm hydrated, making sure that I've eaten lots, making sure that when I wake up that morning I've got energy, and then trying to avoid caffeine for as long as I can beforehand. Beginning of next week, I'm going to be off caffeine for that time, just because then when I actually sit down and I'm in the middle of the gaming marathon, and we're say 14 or 15 hours in, if I start flagging, I'll probably be drinking just water until that point. If I start flagging at that point, then I can get on the caffeine, and the caffeine will hopefully give me that kick I need to wake myself up a little bit.
Right.
I'm going to be trying to avoid energy drinks as much as I can, but something that I've heard that's actually really good is stuff like pre-workout stuff.
Oh,
It
yeah.
gives you a buzz, and it gives you that boost, so I'm going to get some of that just in case. But preparing-wise is literally just making sure I rest, making sure I'm not tired when I wake up that morning.
I mean, in terms of like the physical demands of staying up for 36 hours, are there certain things you're going to need? Are there certain like food items? I mean, we talked about staying away from energy drinks, but is there something you're going to be eating for this 36 hours?
There's a local cafe up the road that does takeaway fry-ups.
Okay.
So I'm going in there in the morning beforehand. I'm going to have a massive fry up, and I'm going to take 2 more home with me. One is going to be for me for lunch, and one is going to be for my other half for lunch, because she's going to be sitting here the whole time I'm gaming. She'll probably sleep during the night to make sure that in the morning, I'm still awake.
Right.
But she's going to be here with me, so I'm going to have to accommodate for that as well. But I'm going to be getting a fry up in the morning, which is going to fill me up, hopefully give me a lot of energy. I'm going to have I'm a celiac, so I can't eat gluten, which is a nightmare for stuff like this, because that's like slow burn energy. But I'm going to be having like loads of like pastries, like gluten-free pastries, biscuits, stuff like that. Stuff that's sweet, stuff that is going to keep me full and keep me full of energy. I will have probably like chocolate milkshakes and stuff like that, because again, they're sweet and they just make me happy. And then when it gets to the point where it gets to like the 12-hour point, the 15-hour point, I'll bust out the teas, the coffees, like the energy drinks if I have to. I'll have a couple spare just in case. So lots and lots of water.
Yeah, that's very important, staying hydrated.
I will have some Lucozade Sports on hand as well, just in case, because they're easy to hydrate you.
And teas and coffees and stuff that you might need to go to the toilet. So I was going to say, is this 36 hours continuous, or can you take the odd toilet break?
I will be taking what is known as a bio break every now and then to nip to the loo and grab food and stuff like that. If I'm eating, I'll be sitting on my desk with the camera on, slightly tilted up so they can't see me shoveling food into my mouth. And I'll probably have some ready meals, like pre-made food that I've made myself downstairs, ready to go as well. So like my other half will run down, stick it in the microwave, or I'll just be like, right, be right back, run downstairs, grab the food, come back up. I'll need to stand up and move around a little bit, because otherwise if I'm literally sitting here for like 36 hours straight, my legs are going to go dead.
Yeah.
My butt's going to go dead. I'm literally going to be suffering by the end of it. So I'll be getting up every like 45 minutes to an hour just for a quick walk around my room, sit back down, carry on. I'll probably do that while I'm gaming. So I'll be sitting there staring at the screen as I move around my room, trying to concentrate on the game while letting my legs unstiffen.
After a certain point, it really is about the mental will to succeed, because physically you may be flagging, but it's just keeping that concentration and that focus for that.
The worst bit is going to be at 10 a.m. on the Sunday morning when I realise I've got 12 hours left, because that'll be the point where I normally would have finished, and it's going to be bright daylight outside, and I'm going to open my window and a rush of cold air is going to hit me, and I'll be like, right, I've got this. And just, it's going to be all about mental fortitude and about making myself do it, because that's the point where the last one I did, I was falling asleep.
Right.
And my boss made the joke, he will double the donation he's giving me if during this one I fall asleep and fall off my chair.
I mean, it's good, but it's kind of a bit mean. It's a bit mean.
It is mean, but it's. I laughed so hard when I realised that, because he actually put that in the donation thing on the Just Giving page. So I saw that and I was laughing. And I was sitting in the office at the time, so when he came in at midday, because he was doing the afternoon shift, he came in and I saw that and I was just chuckling. He's like, what? I was like, what you put in that message? He's like, oh yeah. If you do it, you're not allowed to fake it though. I was like, fine.
Yeah. Get all sorts of trouble for faking videos.
Oh yeah, of course. Oh, it's going to be live, so if I pass out live on stream, I think that's going to be just as funny as if I actually managed to make it, to be honest. You can imagine me sitting in my chair just falling asleep, just like...
Yeah. I think it's the micro naps as well, when your eyes close and you think just for a second and they've been closed for about 8. That's something I can imagine that's going to creep up on you a little bit.
It's difficult because the end of the last one, we actually made the joke, oh, should we go for another 12 hours? And I was like, actually, I potentially could. This time round, I'm going to be pushing for that point. I apparently, and I don't remember this, there were points where I got to almost the stage where I was nodding off on the stream. And I can't remember that, which is kind of worrying. So this time I'm literally going to have to monitor what I'm eating to make sure I'm getting a periodical sugar rush and keeping my energy levels up, because I don't want that to happen too early. And then to crash out and suffer hour 27, 28 to then just completely flag and pass out. It's going to be difficult to keep the energy levels up. To be honest, it's not going to be easy, and honestly I'm a little bit nervous, but at the same time I'm really looking forward to it, just because I want to prove I can.
There's definitely that element of pushing through that sort of extreme difficulty and overcoming something that can be almost like a transcendent experience, because you are doing 36 hours. Are you playing deathmatch? You're playing competitively, or
we're going to be trying to mix it up as much as we can, because for the duration of the stream we're going to be trying to keep as many people engaged and keep as many people interested in it as we can. Some people don't like playing Destiny, they're not interested in it. Some people don't like Rocket League or Battlefield, they don't like shooting games, they rather watch something like Minecraft or I don't know, I'm trying to think of other building games right now.
Fortnite?
Like Fortnite, unfortunately, I don't really play. I will be giving it a go potentially just to see if we can draw some viewers in. Yeah, because it'll be quite interesting if we can, and they can watch me suck so badly at it because I'm rubbish at that game. I have one win and that's it. Stuff like 7 Days to Die. It's a zombie survival game. It's really cool. I've loved that game, so I'll probably end up playing that for a while as well. We're going to try and get as much of a variety in as we can. There is the potential that at 10 a.m. on the Saturday, not everyone's going to be up. So if no one else is up, because knowing the guys, they're going to be up till stupidly late the previous morning anyway, I'll end up playing something like Assassin's Creed or Hitman or Just Cause 4, which I downloaded today because I got the Game Pass on Xbox. So there's going to be as much of a variety as I can to try and keep as many people interested and to keep us engaged, because if it gets to the point where we start flagging because Minecraft is such a chilled out game that I'm falling asleep, that's not what I need.
And I know, like with Call of Duty, their community can be quite vocal, to say the least. If you're playing that, then they'll definitely give you the shot of adrenaline you need.
Very true. That is very true. I don't know how many of the guys have Battlefield, but I'm also going to try getting them on Battlefield, because that's quite a tactically interesting game to play. You actually have to play tactics in order to be able to win. So I'd enjoy sitting there with my sniper rifle at the top of the hill going, right, you guys need to go over there and attack that position. There are guys coming from over there. So if you attack there and then move around, blah blah blah. Or I like organising and doing the battle tactics stuff that Battlefield offers, or letting Pants do it and I'll be down on the ground with my medic kit running around healing people, because that's what I normally do in Battlefield.
Oh, nice. Well, you always need that person with a health pack ready. That tends to be my sort of go-to playing style, just helping people, because I'm pretty rubbish at shooting.
My other half is big into MMOs, and especially Final Fantasy 14, and she's a healer. And the one thing, she sent me this thing the other day, which was like an angelic healer, a kind of figure standing there going, "Don't annoy me, because I get to decide whether you live or die." So we're playing all these video games, and if one of the guys annoys me or said something as a joke, as like a sarky comment, I'm like, "Okay, I'm not reviving you now. You can respawn. Bye." Run up and go and start shooting again.
Yeah, there's such power, isn't there? Such power as they're bleeding out on the floor.
Please save me. You were laughing at me 5 minutes ago. I'm not picking you up.
Yeah. You've spoken about your partner, and she seems very sort of supportive. I mean, how did you guys meet? Did you meet through gaming?
Dungeons and Dragons.
D&D.
Yeah, she worked in the local store, and we go way back anyway. She's a childhood school friend.
Oh, okay.
We started playing D&D. I started playing D&D in the shop she was working. She joined in the game. We just kind of caught up as friends, and then just kind of went from there.
On the side, like game with her, is that a big part of your relationship as well?
Like the majority of most evenings, if we're spending time together, we're gaming together. So either she'll be sitting on the bed and I'll be sitting at my PC, because they're literally right next to each other.
Right.
And she'll have a laptop plugged into my TV, so she's got this massive monitor, and we'll be playing Minecraft together, or we'll be playing Final Fantasy 14, which is a game that I've got very much into recently and absolutely love. And most of the time we're either doing that, or we will go out and go and have little adventures and watch movies. And we both love watching anime together. So it's just like, I get to do all of the stuff I enjoy doing. I've just got someone to do it with now.
So I could ask this, what's the main sort of source of tension when you're gaming together?
When it comes to Final Fantasy 14, it's me asking her lots of questions.
Right.
Because I'm a noob. And she's an experienced player who's been playing it for ages. And I go, how do I do this? How do I do this? How do I do this? I don't know. So that's probably the main one. It's just my incessant talking and asking questions.
Yeah, it's a very involved game.
It's awesome when you get into it. It's a bit slow to start off with, but that's the same as any MMO. Once you're into it and you're hooked, you're sorted. Yeah,
you're really into it for a very long time. So just jumping back to your gaming marathon, I mean, how much money are you hoping to raise, and where do you think that money is most needed in the fight against dementia and Alzheimer's?
We've got a target of £300 for the fundraising. It's on the Just Giving page that I've got set up, which I accidentally named wrong, and I'm really annoyed, but I can't change it. So it says Havoc's 24-hour or 24H, and it should have been 36H. But that's when I was umming and ahhing over whether or not to do 24 or 36. Place I'd like that to go most is probably into making people aware of it, and making them aware that Alzheimer's is a serious and horrific thing to go through, not only for the person actually experiencing it, but all of the people that are close to them, around them. One of the things I think is really good, I was going through London a while back, and Alzheimer's Research UK were in the middle of St Pancras Terminal with the Google Cardboard VR thing.
Yeah.
And they were showing people what it's like for someone experiencing it. Right. And it was really difficult for me, because I put the goggles on, just like, okay, let's have a look. And within 2 minutes, I had to take them off. I was in tears. I just couldn't deal with it. Yeah. It's such a real experience, especially if you've seen it from the outside, to then be able to witness that. And I think making people understand that, like, 850,000 people in the UK are living with that experience and feeling that. Having that perspective is important, and understanding that it doesn't go away at the moment. It's not curable. There isn't a way to get rid of it. Hopefully, like, it's a fight. It's something that is like a battle in a video game. Like the scale of it, you see hundreds of thousands of people battling in these games, and they're realizing, hold on, there are more people than that I'm witnessing in this battle right now that are dealing with something as degenerative and not only mentally disabling but physically disabling as Alzheimer's. The biggest thing is the mental side of it is only one side of it, and you witness all these mental changes in somebody, and then they go through the physical changes that happen because of the effects dementia has, or Alzheimer's has, on the brain. And my grandma went from being this little round lady who was full of life and full of smiles and full of love and was a formidable woman to be around, to someone who didn't recognize who I was and was skinnier than a rake. Honestly, she'd lost all of the weight she had, They were feeding her liquids to try and put some weight on her. There was literally nothing left of her. Unless you see that for yourself, or unless you have that slapped in your face, understanding that isn't something that most people will be able to do easily. The money that I'm raising and that I'm going to be putting into Alzheimer's research, I want that to go into raising awareness for it so more people can understand and more people can help to fight this horrible disease.
There have been studies that link playing video games to people who are suffering from dementia and Alzheimer's and how it can have a beneficial effect. I was just wondering, is that something that maybe you've considered about engaging with?
I have to a certain extent. I'm very much like my grandma's generation and my granddad. They look at video gaming is a very detrimental thing for young people to be doing. Oh, you shouldn't be doing that. You need to be outside in the fresh air. I was like, yeah, but there's people out there. I mean, I would love to. If I could do something like that, I would love to do it. My granddad's always said he wants to get into technology, but every time I hand him the remote control for the telly, he can't work it out. So I don't know how far that would go, especially bridging that gap between generations. Maybe even if it's just encouraging young people to hand their grandparents their Nintendo Switch or their Game Boy or their DS, something handheld that they can sit there and go, oh, this looks cool, is something that, while it's not going to be a cure, it will be something that could potentially help. They've done the research and it's showing that it does have a positive effect. Then honestly, if I could fund that kind of project myself, I would do, just to try and help people that have dementia and have Alzheimer's with that kind of thing. I would do it in a heartbeat.
I mean, my dad's not suffering from dementia, but he's getting on a little bit, and it's always good to keep yourself engaged. I've always wanted to reach out and say, hey dad, come and get this game or do some couch play or something, but there is always this kind of sort of reticence.
My dad doesn't really have any interest in video games, but he's interested in flight simulators. I can quite easily, if I got the gear for it, I could quite easily link that into playing a game like Ace Combat, where you're in a combat simulator kind of game. I'm at some point, I'm trying to save at the moment. It's not going great, but I'm trying to save up to get a virtual reality headset. Because I love virtual reality and I really want to get into that. Like that's like a side project that I'm doing by myself to try and save up money so I get a VR headset. But if I got something like that, I could get my dad straight into that, because there are so many flight sims and stuff that you can get on virtual reality that I could just have him sitting there playing and he'd absolutely love it. Everyone has their own genre, their own interest that they really get into. And I think, especially with the diversity when it comes to video games now and all the different kind of things that you can do in video games, there is something for everyone. It's just finding that thing. So say, for instance, your dad, I guarantee there'll be something that your dad would actually be really interested in playing. If you can find that, you'd probably be able to encourage him to engage more with it.
I don't think it's going to be long before the wider public, especially younger generation, are going to embrace professional gamers as professional athletes.
I mean, esports is becoming such a big thing now compared to how it was even like 5-10 years ago. The amount of esports tournaments, and this was something I was talking about earlier, Rocket League is a game I want to play professionally if possible. I need to practice because I'm nowhere near that standard yet. I'm playing it to improve, and every season there is at least one tournament where the winner makes like $1 million or something like that. They are big competitions. They are big tournaments. And honestly, for the majority of people, sports are just witnessed through telly. There's no reason why it can't just be video game instead. It takes just as high a reaction speeds. It takes just as much will and mind power to be able to do than any of the things. It may not necessarily be a physical competition, but it's still a competition. It's still a sport. People realizing this and the growth of all of these different games, so say like League of Legends, Dota 2, Rocket League, anything like that, there are big markets and big like spaces for these things to go out there and become officially recognized. I can't English now. Officially recognized esports.
Sort of interests me, this a bit sort of tangential. If you built a personality playing one of those particular games, how easy is it to transition? Or
I know what you mean. It's one of those things. I'm technically what you'd class as a variety streamer. I'm not a big time streamer. I'm small scale, but I'm building a community slowly. I've got friends that I game with and we're all working together. I don't play one specific game all of the time, though there are a couple of games that I do, for want of a better term, they are my main games that I play regularly. When you've got people like, say, Ninja, who plays Fortnite, he is an incredibly gifted gamer by the looks of things. He is good at the game and has managed to build such an incredible following from that one game. But if he then went and started playing another game, I think other people would start raising eyebrows, because that's not what they expect of him. He is... for want of a better term, and I don't mean it in a derogatory term, but he's a one-trick pony. So if he then went and switched over to another game, he might find, like, because he's slowly losing popularity now, if he went and did something else, he may find that his popularity increases again because he's going and trying different games and going and exploring other options. But I think having built a reputation on a specific game, it would actually be quite difficult to then go and branch out and explore other games without other people at least commenting and being like, nah, we're all right, thanks.
Your fate is sort of tied to a game. It's very much of the moment of its time, and that dwindles, then you sort of to dwindle along with it.
That's the thing. It's taking excuse me, at that point it's taking that risk, working out whether or not worth then branching out and trying other games or sticking with the sinking ship. The
actual thing that you're playing can change so rapidly, and your ability to maintain a level of interest in what you're playing because of what you're playing is fascinating to me.
It's interesting from the point of view of the popularity of the games. Like most sports, they've got a solid popularity, solid following that they've had for God knows how many years. Games come and go so quickly, and you get, like, say, like with Anthem, recently come out, had a massive hype building up to the game, and then the game dropped and it was really disappointing. If that had come out and that had been an incredible game, the wave that BioWare could have ridden with that, and the popularity that it would have got from streamers and from YouTubers building on it, could have potentially been incredible. They disappointed, unfortunately. So you got this hype and then it just kind of flopped. And it's still an all right game. I've played it. I enjoy playing it a little bit. I feel like Iron Man, but I'm running around in the magic javelin, so I get to, like, call fireballs and lightning out of the sky, and it's pretty cool. But it's one of those games where, like, if, say, I'd started streaming with that and I wanted to stick to that, I don't think I'd really go anywhere, because it's not really that popular a game, and it's not doing very well. Not many people are going to be as interested in playing it as we originally thought. Everyone was hyped for it. I was so excited for it. And I played the demo and was like, oh.
I don't want to say rushing. There is sort of issue of getting something out and then going like, well, we can just send out a patch and that'll fix everything.
Honestly, Skyrim, Oblivion, and Call of Duty Modern Warfare, the first one, COD 4, are the best games I've played, because they were finished, totally complete games when they released them. They then added extra stuff onto it, and for example, with Skyrim, they added like Dawnguard, Hearthfire, the Dragonborn DLC. They added additional stuff, but it was a complete solid game when they released it. There weren't day one patches for Skyrim as far as I can remember. I booted up Skyrim when I first got it and I played it, and that was that. I have, I don't know how many hundreds of hours on that game. It was a complete game. Nowadays, the producers of most of these games are releasing half-assed attempts at games. And then half the time you have to pay for the DLC just to get the finished product. Even Destiny, to a certain extent. They released a certain amount of content, but then they charge an extra 30 quid for the season pass. And the season pass has the rest of that year's game. Gaming developers nowadays, or at least the production companies like EA, Activision, they're looking for money, they're looking for profit. They're not looking to provide us with the same quality of games as were being released like 5-10 years ago. And while they are good games, they're not the AAA titles they used to be. And honestly, from the point of view of a long-term gamer, and all my friends are in the same boat when I say this, it's disappointing. I'm still going to pay for the games because I still enjoy playing them. And my hope is that by funding the endeavors they're going through now, when it gets to the point where the crash happens that I'm anticipating will eventually happen, where these companies will go, oh, well, we're releasing this game and no one buys it. The market is going to get a severe backlash from an event like that. And I'm hoping it happens at some point soon, just so that game developers realize that they're doing something wrong with this. They've got the wrong dynamic and the wrong business model.
In terms of loot crate, microtransactions and sort of DLC, does that stuff ever really benefit the player as much as it benefits the company?
No, it's all cosmetics, generally speaking. I've paid for the odd season pass. So Rocket League, I pay for the season pass because honestly, I just like the way the cosmetics look. It's like a couple of quid and I've got a 3-month season pass. Fortnite, you're paying like a tenner or something like that. All these microtransactions are doing is getting people that I would class as the more gullible individuals to pay for something that just makes their character in game look pretty. And I've been guilty of doing it myself, so I am one of those individuals. But yeah, there've just been times where it's just, you look at what they're selling and what they're asking for it, and it's not worth it. And I can't wait for microtransaction loot crate culture to just die, so
Yeah.
that decent games can start being made again, because that is what's killing the gaming scene at the moment is loot crates.
I agree. Like, I think they got addicted to a certain flow of money coming in from a certain business model. Like, if that's all your
Completely.
game is about loot crates. I mean, especially with like the Star Wars Battlefront 2,
Oh,
which is
don't get me started. Don't get me
that's
started.
another podcast in itself. But there is stuff like that
Yeah.
where you're like they're touting AAA IPs, but what's
Yeah.
behind it is essentially just a little shiny box that cracks open and gives you something.
Pretty much. I literally cannot wait for loot boxes to just die a death and be gone from gaming, so that they can start producing the decent AAA titles they were producing before.
Just wrapping up, what's the game in 2019 that you're most looking forward to that you haven't played yet?
Oh God, 2019. Ooh.
We go 2020.
2019, to be honest, the DLC that's just come out for Destiny was the one I was looking forward to most. I discovered I actually have a love for Devil May Cry, which I didn't know I had before because I'd never played any of them. And then I played the demo for DMC 5 yesterday.
Oh, okay.
And found out actually I absolutely love it. I want to play it so much.
The same boat though. I've never played any of those games. But I'm like, I don't want to start at 5, so I was thinking maybe I could get some of the remastered versions and work my way through them to get to 5.
I mean, that's basically what I'm going to end up doing. I know DMC Devil May Cry and Devil May Cry 4 are both on the Xbox Game Pass.
Right.
So I'm going to be playing both of those at the very least. The other ones I will probably have to, if they're not backwards compatible, go and get myself my PlayStation out of my dad's loft and go and find a second-hand copy of them and go and play through them just so I can experience them, because they seem, even just the simple combat mechanics seem really fun. Honestly, Anthem was one of the games that I was looking forward to, and I've been quite disappointed with that. Destiny's Joker's Wild DLC, which is the one that's just popped, is one that I was really looking forward to and hasn't disappointed yet.
I think the game that I'm most looking forward to in 2019 is the Doom sequel, Doom Eternal, because I'm a big Doom fan.
Yeah, I haven't played the first one of the new generation of Dooms, so I need to go and play that at some point.
It's really good.
I've watched some playthroughs.
Yeah.
It does look good. So I'm going to have to give it a go. It's just I've had so many games that I've been wanting to play. So like Just Cause 4 just came out, and I loved all the other Just Causes. So for me, being able to play with that stuff, just so much fun.
And I think we kind of touched on this before, but what do you think the future is of PC gaming, and what's the one piece of gaming hardware you wish you'd owned? I mean, we did talk about that you wanted sort of VR headset, but I was kind of thinking, looking beyond that, is there anything in terms of gaming or gaming technology that's coming that you're super pumped about?
VR is the main thing I'm pumped about. I'm going to be really honest. That is the future of gaming, full stop. Are you familiar with Sword Art Online?
Yes, I am, yeah.
Okay, so the concept behind Sword Art Online, without the people being trapped in the game, the actual concept of the technology behind that is something I really hope they make a real thing. Ready Player One?
Yeah.
Again, that kind of concept, being able to go in and have this entire universe to go and explore. If I could have that, I would be living that constantly. I would not stop. That is what I am excited for, that kind of technology. Anytime I think about it, anytime I watch Sword Art Online, or I go back and watch Ready Player One for the 17th time, because I love that movie, full stop, it just gets me pumped for it. I can't wait. Honestly, it's going to be amazing.
Just before we go, please tell our listeners where they can find you on your Just Give page, your socials and stuff, and maybe just give a little bit about your charity endeavours.
So the live stream is going to be broadcast live at twitch.tv/havoc9966. The Just Giving page that we are using is justgiving.com/fundraising/havocs24h. 24 hour. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram under the name Havoc9966. Any support you guys can give, whether it's sharing the Just Giving page or coming and donating, would be incredible. Or just coming in and hanging out when we're streaming. 23rd of March from 10 a.m. I will be online, I will be live, and you'll probably see me flagging from the first minute because I'll probably have woken up really late. But oh my god! But yeah, anything that you guys can do to support and just come and say hi, it would be amazing.
So there you have it. I had a great time chatting with Adrian. Thank you so much for listening. I've been Tom, and I'll catch up with you next episode.